Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is another QCast update, and we're bringing this to you from our studio, actually one of the offices in our studio. Timothy Alberino and I just returned from 3 days with Tom Horn in the studios of Skywatch TV, and we were fortunate to have a really, I would say this, some knockout shows. And we're going to tell you that our new DVD, True Legends, There Were Giants, is coming out at about May 15th, because I'm getting so many emails asking. And Tom Horn and my co-authored books, which would be a kind of a compendium, if you will, of probably 20 years worth of mutual research. It's called Unearthing the Lost World of the Cloud Eaters. Now, the Cloud Eaters is a name that was given to us by one of the Native American elders in southern Utah, who's probably one of the most respected and most knowledgeable men in the world. The subtitle is Compelling Evidence of the Incursion of Giants, Their Extraordinary Technology, and Their Imminent Return. Now, this is going to be a very explosive and groundbreaking book. It's not what you've heard before. It's going to take you from the beginning, as we see not only just recorded history, but prehistory to the present time, and the literal opening of stargates, the literal communicating with the entities in stargates. And no, we're not talking about CERN. We're talking about stargates in the desert Southwest. And we're talking about contemporary events that are taking place now. So we'll be releasing the book and the DVD May 15th. And then we're going to talk to you, too, we're going to be bringing you probably one of the most unusual seminars and conferences in Branson, Missouri on September 15th, 16th, and 17th. We're going to have L.A. Marzulli. We're going to have Dr. Lake. You're going to have me, Tom Horn, Timothy Alberino, Anselm P. Rambla, and Derek Gilbert, who are going to be speaking. And every single thing we're talking about is an integrated topic and an integrated theme. And one man's work builds on history, but it's going to be, if you will, the jigsaw puzzle of true history, far different from all the history that we've been, how should we say, with having to deal with and having to clean up the mess thereafter. We'll have our page up probably around March 15th, and it's going to be unusual. It'll be at the Mansion Theater, some of the best audio and video capabilities anywhere in the country. Obviously, we're going to have some very large screen TVs, and the original research that all of us have done is going to be able to be portrayed. The stadium, if you will, the theater seats 2,500 to 3,000 people. So we actually have already been contacted from people all over the world that are going to come to this. No place in history have you ever had L.A. Marzulli, myself, Steve Quayle, Timothy Alberino, Anselm P. Rambla, Dr. Michael Lake, and also we're going to have a very special treat. We're going to have Derek Gilbert, and then on Sunday, we're going to have Pastor David Langford, who's going to bring an amazing message, because what we're going to talk about are tomorrow's headlines that were written in the pages of history that you don't even know the times that we're talking about, but now people are dealing with it. And so every day there's a new revelation. Every day there's a new problem and a new crisis. I think I've said that before. But what we're doing is putting it all together. So imagine this. Imagine coming before a giant screen televisions with your moderator on stage, laying it out panel by panel, and probably the biggest jigsaw puzzle that's ever been revealed to humanity is going to be piece by piece placed within the borders of what I would call true history and biblical history, and you're going to see some things that you've never seen before. So again, that's coming up September 15th, 16th, 17th in Branson, Missouri. We'll have landing pages on Gen 6's site, on Skywatch TV's site, on my site, stevequayle.com, and all the various sites of all the speakers, L.A. Marzulli. So we're excited to be having this time, and the format is going to be just striking. Like I said, it will be different than anything you've ever experienced before. Now, when Tim Alberino and I went down to Skywatch TV in Branson, Missouri from Bozeman, Montana. I took my beloved Inspector radiation monitor, and this is basically one of the better ones. I'll turn it sideways so you can see it. Background radiation when we left Bozeman, Montana was 0.012. You can see it just changed to 0.008. When we were flying, once we hit 35,000 feet, the background radiation went up almost, realistically, if you'd even take a 12, it went up almost 25. At some points, it was 27 times. Now, reports are coming into me from all over the country and all over the world of extreme radiation rates, especially in the northern hemisphere. I've talked a lot over the years and been pretty much responsible for teaching people nuclear war preparedness. And so in dealing with the nuclear war preparedness, it becomes, obvious that people just have got to recognize that we're in a different time zone. Now, I don't mean time zone, but a different time frame than we've ever been in before. And because of that, people have also got to recognize that the tension is heating up. For instance, let's just go with North Korea. North Korea has gone to the extreme launching and testing of missiles and bragging about their intercontinental ballistic missile capabilities. I think they're up to 42 tests of both rockets and warheads. With the rise in nuclear radiation being measured all over the world, it becomes almost like a Sherlock Holmes undertaking to try and designate, guesstimate, or even look at the highest probability of who has set off a nuclear device. Now, let me make this clear. Nothing you have been told or will ever be told will ever be in a truth category at this point on if it comes from the mainstream media. So, I didn't see it on any of the major networks, and even Fox didn't carry it. That doesn't work. Someone set off a weapon. It either had to be an intercept or an intentional above-ground test. It had to be some form of maybe a signal being sent. And I'm just focusing on North Korea because, again, they're working overtime to build the delivery system. And they've also acquired the micro-miniaturization of warheads. And in the open black market, it's kind of like the old song, you can get anything that you want at Alice's restaurant. And if you have the money, you can buy anything. And I'm sorry, but that's the way it goes. Anything. How you take delivery of it and where you take delivery of it, those are problems. And obviously, when you're dealing with clandestine nuclear weapons or fissile materials, or you're dealing with this group of terrorists versus that group of terrorists. One group of terrorists has part A, the other group of terrorists has part B, and the release of the different triggers and the different technology to detonate those, it's way beyond a dirty bomb. Yes, a dirty bomb just means a conventional explosive that has radioactive material that disseminates the radioactive material through a standard explosion. We're talking about total, real nuclear detonations. So what is fascinating to me is the fact that we're seeing this radiation. Now, we were gone for 3 days, and when we flew back, there was no change in the count. Radiation is measured in millisieverts, sievert millirems. Some people use the centigrade scale, and the knowledge of radiation is so primal now. It used to be a big deal. I can remember even the 1962, 64 time period when we were being taught about, obviously, the potential for nuclear war, of understanding what a REM was. REM. It's not a band, okay? It is a Roentgen equivalent man. In other words, how much nuclear radiation is a person exposed to per kilogram or per pound of their body weight. Lethal doses of radiation exposure have been rising dramatically, meaning that they're trying to raise the bar or limit on the true dangers of radiation. One of the things that people don't understand, and this is why radiologists and others who work around nuclear materials usually have a dosimeter. Some people pronounce it dose meter, which is basically a miniature recording Geiger counter with a scale that shows the maximum exposure you received in a day. They then download those into computers and a chart is given, and there's a limit for those who work in the nuclear field that they can only have so much, even over the course of their career. So we're going to take a quick break here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Radiation dose units, it's interesting because there are three basic words that are used, and sometimes it's confusing, but for practical purposes, we're going to use just the three most prominent terms. Now, GY, the letter G as in Georgia, a Y as in yesterday, equals 100 rads. A milligray is 100 millirads. In other words, rad, sieverts, rem. It all means the same thing. And why that's important is people sometimes think that one doesn't translate into the other. But again, because of what we're talking about, there's no issue and we don't have to worry about that. Now, radiation, again, gamma radiation travels literally at the speed of light, 186,284 miles per hour. And to protect yourself from gamma radiation, which is the most deadly radiation, especially from a nuclear explosion, there are three things to remember. Time and distance. The further you are away from the detonation, the better. Shielding. That means that something has to be above you, on the sides of you, and beneath you to protect you from the cosmic ray penetration. It's the mass of the shielding material that does the blocking. The more shielding, the better. And usually they have a talk or a halving thickness. That's a term. Halving thickness simply means that the shielding is measured by a fraction of gamma rays that it blocks. If a certain thickness blocks half of the incoming radiation, then adding the same thickness again will block half of what's left. Radiation shielding materials are commonly categorized by their halving layer values. In other words, can they cut in half and half and half? So there's a wonderful little chart, and I'll give this kind of an example to you. For instance, in order to cut, and this is really important, to achieve a protection factor of 1,000, that simply means that you'll get 1,000 times less the radiation exposure, and that's just protection factor. You can call it a PF, protection factor 1,000. Material, for instance, lead. 4 inches of lead is equal to 10 inches of steel, which is equal to 24 inches of concrete. Packed dirt is 36 inches. Water is 72, and wood is 110. So basically, the idea is that the denser the material, the safer you are. There used to be a book put out by Gary North called Fighting Chance, and it was called 4 Feet to Survival. You can go on the internet and download for free Crescent Kearney, I believe it's Kerny, obviously Kearney's, apostrophe S, Nuclear War Survival Skills. It is free. Everything is a expedient fallout shelter. Everything tells you how to make an air pump. All this stuff is very, very inexpensive. And so I would encourage everybody to start thinking along this realm because things are escalating. Now, again, radiation is cumulative. I doubt anybody's going to carry this story. I've gotten emails from Norway. I've gotten emails from different parts of the United States. I've gotten emails from northern Canada. I've gotten emails from Azerbaijan, I think it is, or, a country over there. But everything that I get says this. We have our meters, and by the way, there are a lot of sharp people around the world. We have our meters set on a threshold, and we're watching a scaling going up. In other words, if the meter is usually reading like this for a baseline, a lot of them are saying they're starting to see this, kind of like a stair step up. The basis of that has to be ascertained. Now, we know that the Russians have a major presence, obviously, in the Arctic. And if you don't understand the Russian Arctic presence, I mean, my guess when it's quick and dirty is it's at least 1,000 to 10,000 times higher than the presence of the United States, just by men, materials, bases, the amount of nuclear submarines they have there, the amount of even landing places for their aircraft. And remember this, that the idea was, and there's actually an internet story, probably 4 years old, about using weather modification to change the temperature. I'm talking about electromagnetic warfare being used to melt the polar ice caps, plural. Right now they're focusing on the Arctic. By raising the temperature in the Arctic, in the North Pole area, it makes everything a whole lot easier, whether you're extracting minerals, natural gas, or oil. It's basically what we're watching now all over the world. There's a rush for resources. There's a rush for natural resources. So I want to get back to who are the three main possibilities, maybe four, but the three most prominent nuclear powers in the world right now are the United States, Russia, and China, not in that order. Then followed by Pakistan, and believe it or not, Pakistan, India, North Korea, not in any specific order, but Pakistan, the black market for nuclear weapons, and when he was in the head of Pakistan's nuclear agency, Dr. Khan, Khan, that was in the days when, seriously, if you had the money, you could buy nuclear technology. If you had $1 million, you could buy nuclear technology. I actually talked to one of those guys, he's dead now, just to see what the going market was. So, that would have been 17 years ago. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the idea that we have had a major explosion, a nuclear explosion, with pretty much major indication by the count per minute of radioactive particles. It really behooves you to keep your eyes open. You can go and watch on the internet, the United States nuclear readings. You can go on different websites and, just type it in whatever search engine you're using. But I think with what we're seeing now and what's happening, as the tension increases, we're going to see more and more people starting to get the feeling, and it is a genuine feeling, that things are just getting more and more dangerous and more, not just explosive, sorry for the word, but more tenuous, more perilous. And it's kind of like you see 10 fingers on a cliff, and when one hand goes, the guy might swing in the direction of the hand that's dropped, like a mountain climber, okay? But you're watching finger by finger by finger by finger. I'm making sure I use the right order of these fingers, by the pinky there, here, and now we're holding on, let's say with our index finger of one of our arms. That's how perilous this is going to get. If you pay attention to the President Donald Trump, you're going to see that he says it's not going to be allowed to happen. With the amount of news stories being released on the worldwide press about North Korea and their amount of testing, at this point, I would say that it appears that even North Korea might have tested out a low-yield nuke in the upper atmosphere just to make sure everything was working. If that's the case, then things have gone into the needle is not only into the red, it's not only pegged at the red, the whole bloody face of the meter is red now. So, pay attention, get prepared. The first thing you need to do is to go on the internet, do a search for Nuclear War Survival Skills by Crescent Kearney. It is free. It is downloadable in a PDF, and I recommend you download it. Second thing you got to understand is food first. Third thing you've got to understand is that you've got to notice and identify the target areas, the main target areas that are closest to you, i.e. the obvious ones: power plants, nuclear reactors, military bases, scientific centers, areas where railroad centers, shipyards, naval shipyards, all those things, that's what the primary targets are going to be. If you remember, 2 weeks ago, one of the Russian ships, one of the spy ships, was seen off the East Coast. But what they didn't tell you is how many Chinese subs were off the West Coast. They didn't tell you what was in the Gulf of Mexico. And it only portends or only telegraphs that the time that we're dealing with right now becomes more and more perilous. Again, the next update, I hope to have a pretty interesting update on thermal vision, night vision, and I'll have a special guest on, and we're going to try and do a two-way on this between he and I, so you can see us both on the screen and stuff we hold up. It's not show and tell. But again, it doesn't do any good to think that, you even understand. Now, those of you in the military and veterans will. But if you do not understand the technological superiority of, even special operations, and know the bad guys buy all this stuff on the black market, you're going to find out probably that you may want to sell some of the safe queens. A safe queen is a firearm that will only be taken out, when you either got to use it or, it's going to be taken from you. But you can only shoot so many rifles. You can only shoot so many pistols. But if you can't see in the dark, you're toast. If you don't understand the tactics of what is going to be used against you in the dark, you're toast. Toast is a nice way of saying that your goose is not only cooked, but it's being served up on a silver platter. Unfortunately, they're, cooking the goose in your house, which is you, and using all your stuff to serve it up. Maybe even more prophetic than I think. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in today, and I'm going to encourage you all to pay very specific attention to the alerts I'm going to be posting on my website concerning the different radiation. Those of you in the United States or in Europe or in Asia that are monitoring radiation in your area, when you see a spike anomaly, please email me, steve777@stevequayle.com. Good afternoon. God bless each and every one of you. And remember this, the ultimate survival item is your brain. The ultimate survival information is that which you know, appropriate, and practice. And then you want to be as far away from the event as you can. Now, here, let me make it one more time, even very simple. A lot of people have life insurance. They got every kind of insurance you can buy. You can buy health insurance, have to have it. You can buy house insurance. You can buy flood insurance. You can buy natural disaster insurance. You can buy business interruption insurance. You can buy life casualty. You can insure your artifacts or your strange things that are worth more money than you even probably know. But that's insurance. Something has to happen for you to collect on that policy. On the other hand, survival, and I think I defined this, 35 years ago, life assurance. It's your LAP. It's your life assurance policy. What's a water filter worth to someone that can't drink water because it's so polluted, but if you had a water filter, you could provide water? What's food worth? What's a can of tuna? What's a can of salmon, pre-Fukushima? What is a 50-pound bag of rice? And so, ladies and gentlemen, again, prepare. I want to just go on record because I'm getting emails today, which is Saturday, the 25th of February. Do not buy silver or gold if you're buying under $1,000 worth, unless you're buying, over cumulative time you can afford it. You must acquire your food now. It isn't quantum physics or even advanced chemistry to let you know that things are happening that are going to affect the calorie count and the purity of the food that you're going to be able to even acquire if and when you can acquire it. No one would have thought Venezuela would be in the state it's in or in the condition it's in. No one ever thinks, most people don't think, actually I'd say the majority don't think, until it comes time to act. And when they have to, quote, act, they could have acted ahead of time, but then they can only react, and reacting to empty shells doesn't get you anyplace. Well, again, this has been a QCast podcast, whatever I want to call it. I guess it's my cast. I can call it whatever. And the idea is that the information is very important to you, and please take advantage of it and avail yourself of it.